Welcome to Fintech Impact. This podcast is an exploration of the financial technology world, interviewing different fintech entrepreneurs about what they do, their story, and what their impact is on consumers, incumbents, and the industry as a whole. Here's your host, award-winning financial planner, university lecturer, and writer, Jason Pereira.
Hello and welcome to Fintech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Johnathan Holland, founder and CEO of Curexe. Curexe is a company that provides tools for enabling online foreign exchange transactions at reasonable rates. In addition to that, they are about to launch a new product that will allow vendors to take payment by Interac. And with that, here's Johnathan Holland. Hello, Johnathan.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, you're welcome. Happy to be here.
So, Johnathan Holland, CEO of Curexe. Tell us about Curexe.
So, Curexe is essentially, well, we do two things now. We help businesses that need to send and receive money. So, if you're a business owner and you need to send money to a supplier in another country, we can help you do that right from our online platform for a cheaper price tag than what a bank would typically charge. Different currencies, any country you'd like to send money to. And then accepting money would be via invoice or in an online checkout, which is essentially a direct debit way of paying without ever leaving your online store, in addition to the credit card options you're probably already offering and PayPal potentially as well.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to dive deep on that in a bit, but tell me about your journey to starting this company.
Sure. Yeah. So I started the business 4 years ago. I wanted to be a banker. So I went to university naturally. I love equities. I love capital markets. I love to, value
that's not
stocks.
Banking, that's investing.
Yeah, true. That's very true. Yeah.
Everybody loves that stuff.
Yeah.
It's the sexy stuff of money.
Nobody's talking about the 120 hours in iBanking.
Yes.
And stuff,
right? And what works at the minimum wage once you actually do the math.
Yeah, actually though. Yeah. But at least you're working so many hours, you can't spend the money, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe that's the preference.
That's the other problem. I got this beautiful house that's empty.
Yeah. So that was originally what I wanted to go into banking. So I figured I would go try and be an equity analyst. Started to get my degree. I was like super nerd at school, president of the finance club. That
is not something to be ashamed of. So.
I guess not.
No.
It was fun. It was a good time and got to do a lot of different competitions and stuff through my school. So I thought that was enough of a resume builder to get an interview, but apparently it wasn't. So I applied at all the different iBanking companies, all the different banks and stuff like that. Nobody gave me an interview.
You know what's funny? So, I had a similar experience. And I actually, because I had worked at a major brokerage firm all through university.
Okay.
I didn't apply for any of those because I knew what the life was. And I saw what these guys were looking like 5 years into it and the burnout rate. And it was like, oh, why aren't you applying for this? It pays so much. I'm like, because I don't want to have a heart attack before I'm 30.
See, I didn't know enough information, I don't think. So I was blindly jumping into it.
Fair enough.
And so basically, Jason, out of that, I looked at banking and I thought, wow, this is an industry that hasn't really been touched by technology in an efficient way yet. I mean, the experiences are still pretty old school. And I looked at the UK and these other countries, and they're coming with these really interesting, great user experiences, helping the end customer in a better way. And we all know with stories like Netflix and others out there that when you provide those better experiences, you tend to dominate and acquire customers that way. So I looked at banking and somehow stumbled upon international students having to send wire transfers around the world. And I thought, well, I learned about a wire transfer and how hard it is to send one going down to a bank. And I thought, well, there's got to be a better way to do this. So that's where it kind of started. And then from there, I'm just blindly kind of starting to build this company. When I first sat down, I typed in Google, how do you build a Canadian company? Like I knew absolutely nothing. Don't come from a family of like entrepreneurs or any kind of background and stuff like that. And I'm at Brock University where I went to school and nobody was building businesses. Everybody was trying to get a job somewhere. So I started building that out.
That's a sad indictment of universities.
I know,
in Canada.
right?
It really is. It's amazing. I remember that same experience. It's just like, everybody just wanted to have the, plum high paying job handed to them because of their marks as opposed to going out and building something, but it is what it is.
Yeah. But that's the university life, right? I mean, there's connections out of it.
It is. I would say that, various universities in the US that are, we'll pick on Stanford. There's a disproportionate number of startups that come out of there, but it is in the Valley. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So essentially I sat down and I started trying to build this company. I'm in St. Catharines, Ontario. Nobody does payments. Nobody's in banking. So you'd think, I guess, at that point I would lose confidence or something building the company. But what I would do is I'd sit at my desk and to get motivation, I would type in motivational speech or motivational video into YouTube. And what would pop up is like Will Smith, Denzel Washington, Warren Buffett, you name it, Steve Jobs would all be speaking. And I got to know all of their voices perfectly. So even if I had my headphones in, I'd recognize who it was. And they all tell you the same stuff. stuff. Like Steve Jobs says, you're never going to know looking forward how it's all going to work out, but you can connect the dots when you look back. So you just have to trust that the dots will connect. And I guess I blindly just use that as, okay, I'm just going to keep going, right? The first 4 months I worked 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And then I started listening to these individuals and found out that it takes more than that. You have to be obsessed like a professional athlete if you want to.
9 to 5 as a salaried employee.
Yeah.
Like no one ever gets to the top of their game by basically putting in the same hours everybody else does.
That's exactly it, right? But me Googling, how do you build a Canadian company? I don't know anything at this point. And that's kind of where it started out. But I quickly learned from like these experts. I looked at the individuals around me, and it's not that they're not doing great things in what they wanted to do in life, but I looked at them and I said, well, I'm not willing to trade places with anybody around me. So I became a complete loner, and I would just do work for 16 hours a day, listen to these guys for motivation on YouTube, and then I would continue plugging forward with the business. And I don't know, it was just kind of a trial and error thing, and I just kept working on it. But I think the biggest pivotal moment for the business was I landed working with our CTO. Built and sold 3 companies. He's been doing this for 25 plus years.
How far along was that?
This was 8 months into having conversations with him. I reached out to him on LinkedIn. Thankfully, when you set CEO on your LinkedIn, people are willing to talk to you.
Even though there's no one else in the company when they click on it. But
yeah,
they're just not clicking through.
Maybe he had a passion for fintech, so he accepted the call. I'm not sure what that was. Yeah, you're absolutely right, right? Everybody in their
the number of times like business card, your card says founder, it means you're alone. Okay.
I love it. Yeah. And so I had a conversation with him, told him what I was trying to do. I guess it was interesting enough for him to keep in contact. And I would just update him throughout the process of all of the developers I had come in and just complete failures with all that. Probably 3 different development shops, 2 or so different developers. They'd try and start to build something and it wouldn't work. Things didn't click. And I still know nothing about tech, so I have no idea how it all pieces together.
I mean, I guess they weren't full time, so they weren't fully invested in it. Right?
Well, it could be that, but it's also they're like younger or the big development shops. It's like we got a quote from them, but they must have been busy. I don't actually know what happened there. They gave me a pretty hefty quote.
As one of my developers says all the time, it's really hard to find good developers because there's so many crappy ones out there. But
it's probably
it is what it is.
Yeah. And then eventually Tim wanted to work beside us, which is great, and build the technology today. And from there, just kind of kept working out. I got into a program called the Next 36 in Canada. The founders of this have built and sold companies for $1 billion plus. For example, Tony Lacavera is sitting on the board, founder of Wind Mobile, sold for $1.6 billion. Reza Satchu and Ajay Agarwal are the 2 kind of founders of it. Reza sold his first company for about $1 billion supplier market, second for $110 million.
Reza Agarwal. What's he doing?
Ajay's U of T, founder of Creative Destruction Lab.
That's right.
Also Kindred.ai, which is building robots with human-like intelligence. Just really intelligent, great, driven Canadian entrepreneurs, and they're just trying to do big things. And the whole mandate of the Next 36 is to find 36 kind of students or just getting out of school once a year and basically train them, narrow us down into finding what they believe are the best potential for a founder, and then teach us to think bigger. Because they say that the statistics right now are showing that US income per capita and Canadian income per capita are just continuously expanding. Diverging constantly. And over the last 30 years. And the reason that they believe that this is happening is we're not building the YouTubes, Googles, Facebooks of the world. We'll build a business, sell it for $50 million, we walk away happy, and you're a big hero in Canada.
Yeah, or we get poached very early we sell it to US companies very early.
All the time.
There's not many Shopify stories out there that they get to the top of their market and maintain their position. I totally get that.
Yeah. And that's what they want to do, is build more Shopify's Hootsuites of the Canadian market and really scale these things globally.
FreshBooks, those types of players. Yeah,
exactly. FreshBooks is a perfect example too. Yeah. And so taught me, I think, to think bigger, even though I already had $1 billion plus ambitions for the company, but it allows you to be around these individuals who've done it before, and it really gives you that confidence, I guess. After that, I moved to Toronto for that program in 2016.
I was going to say, I don't think St. Catharines is the deepest pool when it comes to coding talent. But,
no, not necessarily, right? Yeah. So I had to move to Toronto for that. I mean, I would take buses from St. Catharines up to Toronto, just to have coffees with people. I would do that and just meet with yourself, Jason, and just pick your brain. And, because what network do you have there? You don't have it. So I quickly realized the network is the biggest thing and had to move here. And
hugely valuable.
Never look back. I love Toronto now, so...
Well, fantastic. I got to say, the one thing, nothing inspires me more than the story of hustle and the fact that you were 8 months in a cave, 16 hours a day, figuring it out before you even had your first real partner in it. Congratulations. Like that's the kind of person you put a bet on. That's what I'll tell you. So whether it be this or something else, it'll definitely be a bet. So, okay. So that's a great story. Let's get into what it is you do. So basically you saw that there was too much friction in this marketplace. And of course, there's lots of players. I mean, we go back to the old days of Western Union, literally charging, I don't even know what it was, was, extortionate amounts to move money across the world.
Definitely.
And taking however long to get there. Get to the digital age where you start to have the PayPals for sending stuff and the Interact money transfers and stuff like that. But you still have hurdles. You still have exchange fees. You still have sizable fees. I mean, your website spells it out right there. Average bank fee, 3.64%, not to mention $35 to $50 for a wire fee, which, if you're trying to sell, when you think about the situation of a lot of people, especially when they're sending, they'll always say sending money back home, right? So they're always typically supporting family in other parts of the world. And you're not talking about a lot of money oftentimes. They're trying to wire $500, right? Yeah. Like now we start talking about, 15% friction rates almost, right? So you're basically saying flat out 1%. So besides the magic number of one, what drives the ability to undercut these people by almost 75%?
So basically what it is we have enough buying power at this point, in addition to, that's an easier way to explain it to the general public. But in a nutshell, we've partnered up with Barclays Bank, who's a global leader in international payments. It's one of the largest. We've connected directly with their APIs essentially which is essentially for any listeners who don't know, it's our website communicates with their website and our computers backend systems.
They hear API in this podcast.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'm unsure of my audience right now. That's all.
No, fair enough.
Yeah. And then so basically we're able to offer cheaper pricing based on that alone.
Excellent. So basically you are not swallowing the margin, you're passing on the margin in order to make sure that the number stays at a nice lower level to capture market.
That's exactly right.
Excellent. Yeah. So who are your customers at this point?
So, well, we initially started because we are launching a new product tonight, actually, which is
congratulations.
Thank you. So for the Curexe product, it's the small business owners, the business owners that are ambitious enough to scale internationally, but they're so small that banks just say, come down to the branch to send that wire transfer to China. It's just not efficient. And that's why the foreign exchange kind of industry popped out. You had other players kind of come out of the woodworks to help do this kind of stuff.
And there is no more obfuscated industry in history. I mean, the witchcraft behind FX is just like, you can see it posted right on the news. Yeah. That has nothing to do with what you're going to pay.
Yeah. If you actually look at like a chart, a currency exchange chart, and look at the rate that they would have given you, you would never in a stock chart pay that kind of
a spread. Absolutely not.
It's insane.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to, someone I know in a venture I'm involved, I'm not going to say which one of the three, used to have a past life trading currencies and, doing what she was told. And basically it was like, I know how bad people get screwed. Like it's deep.
It's really bad. Yeah. I mean, a 3% spread. I mean, that's
insane. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know that there's enough handling at all that could justify that price.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There just isn't. I mean, they're just there and they have the opportunity to take advantage of it.
So basically, I'm a business. I need to send money around the world regularly now, or accept payment from around the world. Bottom line is, I do not want to deal with the bank because they're going to extort me, like a better term. How do they find you? Where are you sourcing these people at this point?
So basically, we do a lot of content stuff. We have a blog that we post out there. We're very diligent on writing the blog in such a way where a lot of eyeballs stay on it for a period of time, because it's actually valuable, data-driven content with actionable items out of it. So when you read it, you're pretty captured by it and it'll allow you to execute on it and get something done. Now, the reason we do that, for one, is to provide value to people, but it also lets Google rank us higher. So if you type into Google, best days to exchange USD to CAD, we'll be on the first page of Google for one of our blog posts where we analyzed 10 years worth of foreign exchange data and found some really cool patterns and better days of the week.
So you're doing the social thing right. You're providing a lot of value to basically get to the top of the chart. Are there particular verticals that you've been basically integrated, like that have been really moving towards you, certain type of industry, certain type of vendor, certain size of client?
It's very agnostic minus the size of client. If you're a 100 employee company plus, you probably have access to now your bank's advanced platform. You have an account manager. Now you're kind of
now
better
they're treating you like a human being.
And the spreads aren't as big,
Like we're only going to screw you to this degree going forward.
Until you're successful, and then we'll give you better percentage costs off everything, which tends to be the way the world works, right? But it's so we're trying to kind of provide value to those smaller guys, but it's very agnostic. We service other fintech companies. We can go to plastics manufacturing, to drone media companies, like you name it. We kind of service hundreds of clients now on the platform. But I will say, like, the original product, the Curexe product, it's a little bit different in the market that we're going after for the next product, which is a checkout API. So if anybody knows Stripe, any listeners, very easy to integrate. It's a line of code. Same with us. It's a line of code. Stripe offers credit cards. We offer debit cards, essentially. And what we're trying to do is sit beside Stripe and offer a debit card option. What we're finding is the conversions on an online website are increasing by 12% based on our current data.
Based on the ability to use debit cards.
Believe it or not, like, I love credit. I have good credit. I use credit cards. I wouldn't even use my own product.
Like, I totally get it, because quite frankly, like, I use credit card for everything, but I think a last balance I carried was $5. I accidentally rounded off wrong, and that's it. Like, it's the reality is that it's not going to be there. But for a lot of people, it's the old thing, saying, they can't do it because they're worried about the risk of them not paying it off. And I understand that. So a 12% upside by the ability to use conversion. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's how many people are dropping off. Because and think about it, you're paying a Facebook ad to drive traffic to your site. They're interested in buying. They fill up their shopping cart. They go all the way to the end. They're about to give you their money.
Yeah.
They see credit card and they drop off.
So this is your experience. I'm curious. How is this known? Is there a stat throughout the industry that's known as well?
This is our personal data.
This is your personal data. And if you put that out there for the rest of the industry to see and basically say, whoa, frankly, if I was seeing that that's a question. Like, people drop off. Why do they drop off? Right? You always know that by the time they get to the checkout, there's going to be a certain number of people who just they're just not going to put in that number, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know why, right? And now you're basically saying that at the end of the day, you get a 12% upside if you offer debit services, which to me has always been a very weird little thing as to why is this not being done? Why do I not have this option? Don't get me wrong. I'm going to use credit regardless.
So I know the answers to that. It's very simple. So credit cards are very easy to use, right? Number on the front, you get the expiry date and then the 3 numbers on the back and you put it in. So it's kind of been developed as a very easy way to pay online.
Pre-existing infrastructure.
People in the past have tried to ask for your, in Canada, transit number and account number or routing number, account number in the US.
Yeah, good luck.
People don't know that off by heart.
What are these numbers on the bottom of a check? Yeah. Actually, that was a scene in Catch Me If You Can. He's like, you mean those numbers at the bottom of a check mean something? It's like, no, they're there for decoration, jerk.
I don't remember the movie. That's funny.
Oh, it was good. It was right when they caught the check fraud the first time.
Nice. Yeah. So, people weren't willing to do that in the past. We've developed some proprietary technology where we pull from different sources to be able to source the numbers that we need, essentially, is what we do.
So how do you do that? I'm very curious about that.
So I don't want to go too in depth in the sense that this is kind of our secret sauce, but in general, and anybody that wants to actually, talk about the product or get a demo, I'm happy to do that.
Curexe.com.
Well, actually, it'll be smartpayinc.io.
Smartpayinc.io. Is that live yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
You'll see
it'll be live by the time this airs. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. And then if you go to Curexe.com, Curexe.com, that will have all the marketing information. Right now, it just displays the first product. So it'll have other info on it too. But yeah, it's I found it fascinating that people were, actually converting this higher. And what we're finding is it's easy to speak with the online stores because they get it. They understand that you can offer debit and then it's better. Now, the reason people, in addition to it being hard, didn't offer debit is Interact in Canada put some pretty stringent rules on Visa debit and MasterCard debit. Now, Visa debit, MasterCard debit still charge the end business owner that 2.9%. It's actually through a payment processor like Stripe. Visa, MasterCard get their 2% wholesale fee. They don't budge from that. Yeah. And then the payment processor like Stripe adds the 0.9.
Their difference.
So it's always 2.9. So they do offer debit card options. So you could use your debit, but it's still the high fees as well for the business.
Yeah.
We're coming in and undercutting that as well. We're changing the actual price structure for the entire industry. And we haven't seen that yet. We're charging 2% instead of that 2.9. And since we own Visa in the background, we like to say, where Stripe partnered with Visa does all the back office stuff. We've built kind of the front facing Stripe, but we own our bank networks in the background and we built the technology to process the payments. So our cost structure is different.
So you've eliminated intermediary.
The Visa, MasterCard core 2%, that's what we've removed from the equation. So we can actually play with those margins at that point.
Interesting. Eliminate not only in technology, a lot of it's about eliminating middlemen because quite frankly, that's where the bulk is.
And it's absolutely safe. We've partnered with banks to do this. It's going through banks. We haven't changed anything.
Something anytime you get into payments, safety better be your number one priority, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So in essence, an implementation of what you guys are doing is, I should think it's probably as simple as a Stripe or Braintree, right? It's a small code injection.
Yeah.
Boom. It's essentially you're up and running and you're gone in no time. Now I'm wondering, you guys probably integrate with various solutions. Do you integrate with like a Shopify or anything like that yet?
Not yet, but we're in talks with, so we just reached out to OpenCart. They're a pretty large e-commerce player. We have a demo with them next week, which is exciting. This is very early. We just contacted Shopify and all these guys. So eventually what we'll do is we'll build a custom payment integration into Shopify's of the world and all that. And then we'll sell to them as well.
That's going to be compelling. You go to the marketplace in Shopify and you basically see 2.9% for Stripe and you see 1% for you guys. People are going to okay, where's the checklist of differences? Okay,
2% on this one.
2% on this one. I'm sorry, but 0.9 is still
1% to to send money out to different countries, 2% to accept your money. 2% to accept.
So correct me on that.
Which is still better than
well, it's a freaking 33% haircut. So yeah, it's still better.
Yeah.
So well done. So how many currencies do you support currently?
Up to 20. I don't know if I could list them all right now.
Guessing all the majors, right? You got the so the
Euro, pound. We even do like South African rand, Egyptian pounds, stuff like that as well.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because it's You start getting into some of these more esoteric currencies, it's still always going to be a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, always. The spreads are so much larger too. I mean, even if you're doing euros in Canada, the bank will take 5% of all your money.
Yeah, we have one client judging for international competitions all over the world, and she was like, "Oh, help me! How do I get this solved? I can't open up accounts in these numbers. I'm getting paid in these weird currencies." I'm like, "Your solution is to either eat the margin or don't take the job."
Yeah,
that's basically it.
Yeah.
There is no in between. So it sounds like you come, long way in 4 years. Has your competition seen this? First of all, what do they think about the exchange, or how this competition basically reacted to your exchange rates? And then in terms of the new product, does anyone know it's coming other than this podcast?
This is actually the first time we're doing anything public, to be fair, for the
product. I timed this perfectly.
I don't know when it's airing, but it's definitely...
I think 2 weeks, but we'll see.
Nice. Yeah, for the first product, for the foreign exchange stuff, there's lots of competitors out there. Yep. So we build our kind of sales funnel, and we narrow it down to people only doing foreign exchange. And then out of that, there's a lot of competition. So it narrows your lead to customer funnel even more, the percentage you're converting. So yeah, there's lots of competition in that space. But we're finding with this new product, it just hasn't been done yet. And we'll message people about foreign exchange. They'll say, take me off your email list, or not interested, something pretty blunt. And then we'll notice they have an online checkout, respond back with, oh, maybe this is something that would be valuable to you. And everybody says to us, let me know when this is launched. We'll integrate with this one. So it's just a different game that we're playing.
Would it be valuable to you to pay 2 instead of 2.9 on every transaction?
Yeah.
Yes, it might be.
Yeah. And with the foreign exchange stuff, we advertise 1%, but if you're doing hundreds of thousands of dollars,
I'm sure there's margin.
You should be shopping around. So any listener here, if you're doing that kind of volume, call around your banks, call other foreign exchange companies. And that's what we've had to deal with too, is our customers calling around and they're shopping and they're trying to squeeze us for margins. And that's fine. That's what they should be doing.
Right? And
that's what they should be doing.
And thank you for being honest about that, because nothing annoys me more than someone who says, no, we can service everything in the best way. No, you can't. We can't be all things.
You have to be real to build trust with people. If you're not real, then...
when you break it down, finance is a trust game when it's what it comes down to. So basically, besides the initial struggle to get, the first partner, what have been your biggest hurdles to date? How do you convince a Barclays to do business with you that young?
That was literally the hardest thing, Jason, honestly. So when I mentioned after 8 months, our CTO came on board, it took us from the first day, 2.5 years, to convince the CEO of a bank called Zeg Bank in Canada. They're owned by Desjardins. Nobody's ever heard of them yet.
I have not.
They have they basically built an ING Direct before it was Tangerine kind of online banking that they released kind of at the same time, and now they're regrouping and trying to launch something.
Quebec, I'm sure.
It's actually in Ontario. It's in Toronto office.
Where?
Yeah, on Adelaide. Yeah.
Zeg Bank. Okay.
Yeah, Zeg Bank. Yeah.
Wow.
And,
okay.
So I know
idea.
I know David Raju, the CEO, and I know John Hillis and stuff, the CMO. They're pretty well, and they're kind of piecing this together and launching.
So what did it take for them to crack?
Basically, it took us selling the idea of we're going to be servicing the business customers in a unique way, giving this value proposition. And for them, they saw it as, okay, this is an interesting value added service that we could potentially integrate with. And we would sell an API solution directly to their bank. That hasn't happened yet, and lots has changed in both of our worlds since then. But they believed in what we were doing and gave us our first ever bank account so that we could operate, meaning... We need a special bank account to pull money in and send money out.
What's it called?
It's like a cash management kind of system through...
I am frozen on the name. Anyway, so merchant account.
Yes.
Yeah, basically a merchant account. Wow.
Yeah, and we're a registered money service business. Yep. If you go to the bank and say, I want to open up a money service business, they ask you, if you're opening up a normal business account, are you a casino, a marijuana dispensary, a firearms dealer, and money service business is on that list. And if you check off any one of those, compliance shuts it down right away, needs to get more information. You have to take it up to the top to get it figured out.
Is there any line of illegal business that was not mentioned there?
I know, right?
The only thing was missing was mafia.
Maybe cannabis now. now
still, maybe cannabis will come off there, but not anytime soon. But again, literally, the thing that was missing was mafia.
Yeah.
Check. Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. From a money laundering perspective and anything money laundering, wow, I can't imagine the challenges on the compliance side, right? Yeah. I totally get that. I can't imagine people, the people who showed up when I found a business with large duffel bags worth of cash. But it is what it is.
It's funny you mention that because we would joke with our banks and say we don't accept duffel bags of cash because we're all electronic. So they like the fact
that's the interesting thing about that is that's perfect because honestly, you just de-risked yourself to them in their eyes so much, right? I mean, the second you add cash, it's like, whoa, the alarm bells go up. So No, great.
Yeah, you have to successfully launder it through your bank first and then transfer funds after.
So 2.5 years to get a bank to agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when did the Barclays deal come about? Like how long did that take?
So that actually happened before we landed the deal in Canada, technically. So it was probably at the 2-year mark or so.
Are they just more familiar with dealing with startups in this regard?
That's what it was. I mean, they're based out of the UK. They're very forward thinking with fintech. They're open to working like this. They know
they're much more used to currency exchange. So I would think that their infrastructure was far more along than anyone over here was.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So they had it in place, and we talked with them about what we're doing. They said, we service other clients with this type of a service. If you build this is how it will look. And then we also needed to get that Canadian bank relationship to be able to pull money into our Canadian account and then send it to the UK to have it exchanged and sent globally after that. So took a little bit, but Barclays was willing to work with us. Then once we got the Canadian thing set up, it was good. This is about the time that I was just finishing the Next 36 program. So end of summer 2016. And
so you were all pumped up, ready to go, and deal gets landed.
The whole summer I'm telling this program, I'm building this online money transfer business, but I can't transfer any money, right? So by the very end of the program, I finally was like, I landed the accounts, we can put our first dollar through, So it was kind of funny.
Suddenly the crazy guy in the class is legitimate.
Yeah, I don't think anyone believed me up until that point. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so that's great. So you land that off and how was the uptake initially?
Very slow. For the first year, it was probably we would transfer the first month. I think we did 27,000. Yeah. We get 1% of that. Do the math. 270 in revenue in the first month.
No, you're not even at ramen profitability at that point. Yeah.
No, you can't even handle anything. And not to mention our bank costs were probably
500 over 270.
Oh, we have monthly costs that are high, in the thousands just for bank account relationships and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and just kind of kept plugging away. I had to learn a lot through this process. So we kind of didn't have the right resources yet. And then we didn't have the right salespeople that I roped in. It's honestly being resourceful is the number one thing. I mean, you have to figure it out. Everything I'm telling you right now is just going to be an excuse anyway.
Entrepreneurship 101. I mean, it's you got to hustle. I mean, the people are like, oh, I opened this business. I don't understand why customers don't come in. It's like, what are you doing to make them come in?
Yeah. What value are you providing?
Short of putting a gun to their head, what are you doing to drive the business into your house, into your business? And it's just, I'll never cease to amaze me how many people just think that the second they open the door, they should have business. It's bizarre. But
it's probably why 50% of businesses fail.
And probably about 80% of restaurants in the first year. But it's not the stats aren't good, and a lot of times it is that. So great. So basically, then what led you to basically move from FX to basically taking payment deposit?
Well, essentially, we listen to our customers, right? And what we realized is they were all talking about having this, money transfer business that we had, which is great to pay out. But they're like, what about my clients around the world? Like, what about my clients in the US? How do I get their money back to Canada in a seamless way, like PayPal or credit cards via invoice or on my online checkout without having to pay these high fees? And that's originally where this kind of came about. And so I said, well, I'll look into this. I had to figure out licensing in the US. There was a lot to go with it. But I basically realized because we've automated the whole end-to-end flow of pulling funds, having it automatically exchanged to any currency and sending the wire out, we've automated that entire process. So I realized, wow, we can shave down the number of steps down to something as easy as putting in some bank information and it's done. Makes it very simple.
So essentially what you're saying is the code base you had built up for the first product made the creation of the second product a lot easier.
It's definitely true. Yeah. The automation of that kind of payment flow is what allowed us to be able to jump into here. Because you can't in an e-commerce store where you're doing $100 orders, $50 orders, you can't have that not automated. It's just too much manual work to deal with that.
And frankly, no one wants to deal with multiple vendors for the same type of what they perceive as the same type of transaction, right? It's too much of a hassle.
Very true.
I get that. I get why they would want to start to manage this. So it's smart. You found, it looks like you not only got the request, but you identified an underserviced niche, which was the debit card side of it. And I'm still blown away by that statistic on sales. I mean, I feel like that blog post is going to be right to the top of business management lessons. Yeah. It's nuts.
Well, the beautiful part too, and the reason kind of, we were learning from our customers that, but we learned that this next product that we've launched has a real differentiation. You're always learning as an entrepreneur and listening to investors to have a differentiating product that's really valuable. Yep. You have lots of different factors that have to add to that. But when you have a product that there's similar products out there, it's a real grind to scrape to get your customers and it's harder to scale up. So in this scenario, it just seems so obvious to jump in, help our current customers and have a product now that's easier to, bring forth and actually provide a lot more value to these people. So,
and I would think that, this seems to me like a pretty sticky part of a pretty sticky relationship. Because you're going to put this code base in on the website. The website's not going to be updated that often. Yeah. And frankly, as long as it's not broken, it's working. And short of someone figuring out how to pull this off for zero, I can't imagine that you're going to have a lot of competition in that space.
No, I mean, and the beautiful part is getting our money transmitter licensing and getting those banking relationships taking 2.5 years. Somebody else has to go through that to try and compete.
And any incumbents basically in order to do that, they have to shave their margins dramatically and increase their efficiencies. So, it's like not quite the innovator's dilemma, but it's the old dilemma of, newer tech. And if you can basically, someone else was doing it for 4 and you can do it for 2, they got, what I have to say, addicted to the heroin of that 4, right? Yeah. And coming down from that to a much lower price, maybe you get the efficiencies there first, and then suddenly your profitability goes to the roof, but then you got to give up the profitability in order to compete. That's a very hard thing to do. And that's why a lot of businesses get disrupted, because they don't want to infringe on their fat margins.
Yeah. And the beautiful part is, think about it. I mean, we're messing with PayPal, $95 billion market cap, Visa, 200, I think, or 250
so you're
billion.
Messing with them, but I mean, essentially at the same time, you're facilitating their world as well. I mean, you're in the online payment space, right?
No, that's very true. Yeah.
I mean, the Stripes, the Braintrees, the PayPals of the world, absolutely. Like, they are the ones who, this is such a fundamental piece of commerce, right? And to think that we are literally being taxed to the tune of 3 points by the incumbents. I mean, that's part of the reason Satoshi wrote a paper. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, so true. But again, you didn't foresee the fees that came out of that paper afterwards. But, that was the article I read once was, so you're into Bitcoin, hope you like fees.
Yeah.
But so what's the long-term vision? I mean, you've gone through, I won't call it a pivot. You've extended yourself one way after learning your lesson and basically making something profitable and moving to the next one. Yeah. So what's the long-term vision for this thing?
So I'm obsessed with showing Canadians that we can do this type of stuff. We need to scale this thing globally. Yeah. If we need a liquidity event for our investors, we'll go public with the company, but we want to show in Canada that we can win on such a global scale, scale to every country, set up all our banking relationships around the world, and then we become like the next PayPal built out of Canada, essentially. And
it's amazing.
Just for example, our vision statement is to help businesses expand internationally to help increase the economic prosperity of their respective countries. So we make it bigger than us. It's not about us. It's not about a quick buck. You can't buy us for $50 million and get us to walk away. We need to do this to show Canada that we can build.
Someone may test you on that, but anyway. No, I mean, I commend you for that, because it's interesting. That's, again, being Canadians, we have the underdog chip on our shoulder. And it's one of the more recent, it's interesting. It was a recent guest also, which was Xero, the accounting software. Yeah. And we're
going to talk to them at some point.
Oh, so you do. I mean, they're a fascinating company. They just bought out HubDoc.
Yeah, I saw that. 70 million.
HubDoc's Toronto based, is it?
I think it is.
Yeah. And I mean, that was a very smart move, but I mean, it's interesting because they started in Auckland. Right. They started in New Zealand. Talk about I need to prove that Auckland can pull this, New Zealand can pull this off, and we're doing it, right? Like, I'm familiar with that entire thing, right?
Definitely.
So a spike can fuel you.
I think the ones that are crazy enough to believe they can do it out of places like Auckland like that, they'll make it happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's just the good idea, the right execution, the right people driving hard, it's going to happen, right?
That internal drive has to be different, right? If you want to make a quick buck, I don't believe that you'll scale something that large. I don't think.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because I'm involved in a couple of startups myself, and the discussion is, there's an old saying is that always have one eye on the exit, but if your eye stays on that exit, you're never going to get there. Yeah, right. It's like, okay, what is enough for me as a human being and as my corporate goal? At what point do I say, okay, I'm done, I'm out? Yeah, right? Those are the terms you're going to set for yourself and how you're going to do that. So have that idea, but if that's all you're worried about, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's also not a good motivator, right? Just to be rich. Like maybe to some people, but
I mean, but here's the thing, I'll throw this out to you. You accomplish what you do. You recognize what you want to do. You recognize you basically facilitated all this. Sooner or later, that challenge stops to feel like a challenge, right? It's the old, someone said the other day in an interview I heard, which when's the last time you heard Sergey or Larry talk about search? They don't care about that. They're investing in longevity. They're investing in driverless cars. So you got to find another facility for your passion.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be the one thing forever.
Very true. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap it up in a minute. But before we do, I always have one question that I ask everybody, and I always kind of butcher the delivery of it because it's a little bit not the most grammatically correct sense. But what about what you're working on or the industry in general, the trends you're seeing excites you the most and makes you just really ambitious to get out there and tackle it?
Well, in general, I think that this is helping banking force to change, to actually provide experiences that are a lot better in all of fintech, I think, in general. I mean, from the payment side, it's just one piece of it. It's not necessarily the total value that's going to provide to businesses and users or end individuals. But it's definitely that change of new experience, making it easy frictionless. Like that's the type of stuff we need to see. And it's a shame that like a lot of the technology built at banks has just been still on old mainframe stuff. And it's going to take some time to move over.
Don't get me started.
No, like honestly.
When I left the brokerage firm that shall not be named in 2000 and end of 2001, the back office had just moved to Windows 95.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before that, I was visiting back there. And I'm like,
yeah,
these are mainframe computers. How is this possible? Like, how do you even know how to work one of these things? Like,
that's the other scary piece too. Like I know individuals that are within the bank, and there's certain individuals at the bank that can't leave because they're the only ones that have the knowledge of the code, but they're like in their 60s or even 70s.
Well, I know we've been trying to get data extracts from certain custodians, and like they're coming out in COBOL. Yeah. And it's just like, wait a second, what? Like, what year was this base code written?
Honestly,
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I'm just excited to see how the industry is going to change and see the end user get to benefit off the better user experiences, and hoping a lot of Canadian companies can prove that and kind of keep scaling up. Like HubDoc, even for example, is a good example of that too.
Absolutely. So thank you for your time. Thank you for this. And thank you for your passion. It's very inspiring. And I hope some people listen to this and are motivated the same way you were motivated by listening to others talk.
That's great, Jason. Thank you for having me.
So that was my interview with Johnathan Holland. As you can see, he's very ambitious, very driven, and I'm very interested to see where he ends up taking this. And with that, I'm your host, Jason Pereira. If you enjoy this podcast, as always, please leave a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. Until next time.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at fintechimpact.co.